Caddis Maximus here, this time with a review of the Harbor Freight Doyle Heavy Duty 11-in-1 ratcheting multi-driver. To say right off the bat, this is not something I'm going to recommend. One, it's really expensive. $23 without a discount, normal shelf price. Outrageous, really. It's not particularly well built. Some of the other Doyle stuff is, but we can see that this collar here, which is the reversing collar, just isn't super great. And I'll end up popping off this front chuck, but it has quite a bit of play, and there's just a single little pawl in there. We pull it out, and if I can get a flashlight, we can see the slight different color metal in there. That's cast zinc, or commonly known as pot metal, so that's definitely not something you want to see. And considering Craftsman and Lennox and all these other brands have these drivers, I'm going to end up getting a couple of those. I'm sure they'll be better than this. One of the biggest criticisms, well, how they advertise as being 11-in-1 is it's one of these multi-bit drivers, but it actually has these additional collars. So the idea is that you have a 3/8 socket here, you have a 5/16 socket here, and then if you pull a bit out of any one of these become a 1/4-inch driver. So that's how they're getting the 3 of the 11. The other rest of the 11 is the fact that it comes with a bunch of these double-sided bits. So 4 double-sided bits gives you 8 different tips, rounding out the 11. If you noticed, the bits are highly proprietary. I couldn't find any replacement ones, and they have a ball detent actually integrated into the bit. The retention isn't integrated into these adapters. So you can't, when those wear out, obviously screwdriver tips wear out pretty quickly. Even though you can put a 1/4-inch hex in there, there's no way that it actually stays in. So that's going to be the real second reason not to buy this. It's disposable. If you can't find these special tips, I'm sure they're going to be more expensive. And being screwdriver tips, you know, they're going to wear out sometimes pretty quickly. And at that point, you know, it's basically junk. Now, of a lot of the Harbor Freight stuff, this is probably one of the, you know, bigger disappointments is this whole setup here, just because it's all these different little collars and adapters. You know, obviously if you lose one of these adapters, then you just, that side of this piece won't hold any bits at all. One of the other issues is that this barrel diameter, there's lots of interchangeable and flip tip screwdrivers, and they're all designed similar, where they just have a barrel with a couple of pinch points. This is larger than what would be considered a more standard size, so unfortunately, this driver handle, you can't use other flip tip bits that I have seen online as replacements. Or I should say these whole shanks and adapters. And just the way it wobbles around, I've been able to look under there and just see a single pawl, so that's not real satisfying. And the way it's already loose, I don't see it lasting long, but I'm going to show what's inside. Managed to get it this far apart. This is one thing I was noticing and got pried out. It just has some little barbs on the cast zinc. We can obviously see that it's cast zinc. We have a Taiwanese patent there, and we have a US patent. I'll look that up and we can see who made this thing, or who the design originated from. Problem with those barbs is they just kind of go in these little slots in the acetate, and I just banged it a few times and it already started to work itself loose. And so as you use this, who knows over how much time, but it's pretty obvious, just those little barb posts in these little slots in the acetate, and it's going to end up wearing and loosening up, and this thing will eventually fall apart on you, especially after getting dropped and being aggravated. As soon as I got this thing maybe about that far out, I was able just to wiggle it out the rest of the way, so it was actually pretty surprising. That patent is like a Taiwanese or Chinese patent from 20 years ago, so it's actually just expired last year. So the patent they reference is no longer valid on this tool. And the original patent described a ratcheting clutch driver, so this is just a ratcheting mechanism, not even the clutch mechanism. So there's a little ball detent for the switch. And here's our 2 little ratchet pawls. All the switch is doing is that when you're in locked position, it just doesn't press down one or either of them. But if you press down one, we can see this would be the reverse. And if we press down this one, this would be the forward. And there's just some kind of little snap ring or something that's holding the front of this to this zinc body. Anyway, here it is. They have a little snap ring that goes over the top of this. And then this is just pushed down over it, and it permanently captures it. It actually captured it pretty well, but you can see the obviousness of this being just cast zinc, because I just was able to I just squashed it in the vise and then hit this top part with a hammer a couple times, and it just broke right off. Anyway, definitely not recommended, and that's why I wanted to destroy this one. One, and second, first off, I'm kind of getting tired of Harbor Freight stuff, and they're, the way that they're coming out with really just a bunch of pretty expensive and overpriced stuff. Maybe some of the power tools are okay, but it's just really getting to the point where for a few more dollars you can get a whole lot better product. And this is a great example. This thing is a ripoff for $23 normal price. There are so many of these things that you can get, and after actually ripping this thing apart and seeing that it really isn't very well made, I don't even know why it's so expensive, but I just wouldn't rely on this. This is only going to take a few drops, and then of course when you wear out those bits, good luck finding other ones to replace it with. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.